So James Gunn cast a Brainiac, and just like I predicted, it's German actor Lars Eidinger. And you don't have to go back and check the old video, because here I am now telling you what was in that video, which was that it was very obvious to me and anybody who's following his career that this was going to be Lars Eidinger's role to lose, and here he goes. Now he's got the role. Also, my cat Mortimer is on my lap because he wants to be here to talk about Brainiac, because he loves that Brainiac is one of the characters that usually canonically has a pet. He has a monkey named Coco. They did like one of the reboots, they turned into a big monster guy. I hope if they have him in this movie, he's just a little monkey friend that hangs out with Brainiac. So I think that's kind of fun. And honestly, like looking at baby Joey back here and like baby Groot and everything James Gunn has done, I wouldn't be surprised if this Brainiac has a Coco. But okay, so today, Saturday, the 20th of December, James Gunn announced that Lars Eidinger is going to be playing Brainiac in the movie Man of Tomorrow. And perhaps in other stuff. We don't know if Brainiac's gonna stick around. He's one of those characters that in like the comics is kind of tough to kill, because he is usually an artificial intelligence. Sometimes he's like more of a robot than other times. And I talked about this a little bit in my original video about the Brainiac casting, which you can go ahead and watch, but don't watch any of the parts where I talk about who's probably going to play him. Just watch the part where I talk about the history of Brainiac, because that's the best part. Okay, so there were a lot of actors that some people thought were in the running for this role. Matt Smith was one. Sam Rockwell, Wallace Shawn, Clive Bang, even Dave Bautista was rumored to be part of this casting process. Obviously, I saw some of those and went, oh, some of those better than the other ones. Like Wallace Shawn is a very interesting choice. I've always figured he would be more of a Mixie Spitlick. Sam Rockwell could do plenty of things in a Superman movie. Brainiac is not the one that I would expect him to play. Clive Bang and Matt Smith, those seem plausible. And Dave Bautista is interesting because that's someone who James Gunn has worked with before, has a very good relationship with. And sometimes Brainiac is a big jacked guy, but other times he's like a normal-sized computer man. But yeah, so it was Lars Eidinger. And for people that don't know, who are not familiar with his career, he's a German actor. He's been working for a little while. I would say American audiences most know him from one of a couple of things. Number one, he has a very small part in the new movie Jay Kelly, starring George Clooney and Adam Sandler. It's like a movie that I don't know if it's going to win awards, but it really wants to win awards. His role in there is very small. He was also in the Noah Baumbach movie White Noise, where he plays like a more significant character, a drug dealer, kind of the villain of the movie, one of the villains of the movie. It's a weird movie if you've never seen it. I don't want to say it's like a bad movie. It's just hard for me to tell if I liked it or if it was working. His performance, though, interesting, we'll talk about it. And then he's been in a couple of shows. He was in Irma Vep on HBO, and then he was in Sense8 on Netflix. So I would say American audiences probably know him from one of those 3 or 4 things. Now, he's been working in Germany for much longer. Found some clips of him in movies. Seems like he did a very wild version of Richard III, like a stage play that I guess was filmed, which sure was interesting. My favorite thing about him that I learned is he is a DJ and a rapper. And sometimes our American or British actors will be like, I'm also a rapper. Timothée Chalamet has been doing a lot of that now. Lars Eidinger, also a rapper and like a DJ. He DJ'd the rap party for one of his movies. And he seems to take it very seriously, which to me is cool. Now I'm sure there are some German viewers out there who are watching this video and just like pulling their hair out going, oh my God, he's not going to mention this humongous German role that everyone knows him for. I don't know that. I don't know what that is. But I think based on 3 of those things that I mentioned, I do have like a picture for how this actor is going to fit into the role of Brainiac. And I think it could totally work. Let's talk about Brainiac a little bit. I'm not going to go into like the whole backstory because like I said earlier, it's complicated. He's a guy who was like an explorer, and then it turned out that he was a robot and he's transferred his consciousness into other bodies, and one of his descendants is on the Legion of Superheroes. But like Brainiac, traditionally, Superman villain, some of the things that seem to hold true about his character. I mean, 1, he's smart. He's very intelligent. Some would say he's one of the smartest figures in DC Comics. I believe when he was programmed as a robot, he got the 10th level intelligence, which is high, but then he bumped himself up to a 12th level intelligence, which is the highest level of intelligence that exists in DC Comics. Besides being smart, Brainiac, plays like most evil geniuses tend to play in movies and shows like this. I think you could compare him to Ultron or Vision or one of those characters. He is intelligent, but he's also somewhat sophisticated traditionally. Now, I know there have been many different versions of Brainiac, and some of them have been a little wilder than others, but usually he is a villain who is very put together. I think that comes from the fact that Brainiac usually wants to capture and study or preserve civilizations, societies, cities. He values that history. He believes those are the parts of the world that need to be preserved. Now, he's got a very academic sensibility. He can be robotic and unfeeling, but I don't think he necessarily has to be. I think the main thing that's important about Brainiac is he's driven by a very specific purpose. We can change what that purpose is. That's not always the same thing, but he has a goal. He is a single-minded computer guy who's like, I want to shrink all the cities so that I can preserve them, or like, I want to capture Superman or something because he is valuable to me. Like, you could say he's sort of like DC's Collector, but I wouldn't say he acts the same way the Collector acts. And he's not only threatening because of his intelligence, he also can create bodies for himself that are very physically imposing. He can fight Superman, so that's fun. He makes force fields and stuff. He has a big ship that's in the shape of a skull, which is very scary. But let's talk about why I think Lars Eidinger is going to be a good fit for this role. First one, he seems intelligent. I think part of it comes from the fact that anyone speaking with a German accent very slowly, very deliberately, it reminds us of Werner Herzog, it reminds us of Christoph Waltz. They tend to play characters who are somewhat cerebral. In his role in Sense8, he is like a rich magnate who owns a club and is trying to get some of the Sense8 people to launder money for him or something. It's not worth explaining the plot of Sense8, but he's supposed to be like a very intelligent, very in control character. It's not to say he doesn't have humanity, but like, he holds himself in a way that is very dignified. But then in White Noise, he plays a drug dealer who has a drug that makes you not scared of dying. I'm not going to try to explain White Noise either. It gets very existential. But like, Adam Driver's character finds out that his wife has been seeing this man to get this medication because she's been cut out of a clinical trial. So Adam Driver goes to confront this character who's named Mr. Gray, and Mr. Gray is in a motel and he is taking this drug, and he gets talking about like kind of deep philosophical stuff. He's clear that he is on the drugs as well, and the drugs have affected him. But at the same time, he comes off as a character who thinks, a character with a brain, even if it's not being used incredibly well. You expect maybe when he's not on the drug and he's having more coherent thoughts, they would be somewhat intelligent. And again, like in Sense8, he is a character who is in control to some extent. Then in Jay Kelly, he steals a handbag. There's really nothing to that role, but he is in it. It's his most recent role. In case anybody sees like Jay Kelly's star, it's barely. Like, if you want just a real sample, find the scene from White Noise. That's a good, very contained, like, you're not going to understand what's going on in that movie, but you could see what I think James Gunn saw, which is a character who is going to be cerebral, but also who's going to be weird. Like, he's not going to be necessarily as robotic as Brainiac was, let's say, in the animated series. He is going to have a little bit more personality. You know, I don't think he's necessarily going to have the Whedoniness of, like, Ultron from Avengers Age of Ultron, but, like, I do think this character will have, like, opinions about things, opinions about Superman, opinions about civilization. And I think Lars seems to be more than able to portray that. He also seems like an actor who, while he can act composed, can also just act real wild. And like, I wouldn't expect that to come up, but that would be fun. Also, because he is a rapper, he could rap a song for the credits like Will Smith used to do, and that was fun. We like that. Brainiac rhymes with a lot of things, so I'm sure he's thinking about all of them right now. I will say one other bit of information that we got from James Gunn was about kind of which versions of Brainiac this character will be inspired by, or more specifically, just which versions of the character interest James Gunn. And he gave us 4, which is helpful. First, he named the 50s Otto Binder stuff. That's like original Brainiac with the shorts and the monkey. Second, James Gunn mentions the surprisingly scary Wolfman Brainiac. So Wolfman refers to Marv Wolfman. He's a writer known probably mostly for his work on the Teen Titans, but also he did work on Superman, revamped the character of Brainiac, turned him from a guy to skeleton robots. So there's a lot of different versions of Brainiac you've probably seen. And the story behind what he does in these books, Action Comics 543 or something like that, he gets his body turned into atoms, and then he gets sent through the universe and gains all his intelligence and then rebuilds himself as this robot man. It's very complicated. This is also where the Skull Ship came from, so this is a big evolution for the character of Brainiac. James Gunn also mentions the animated versions. Now, there have been quite a few animated versions of Brainiac. I will say the one most people are probably familiar with is the one from Superman the Animated Series, who continued all the way into Justice League Unlimited. Him and Lex had a big arc. It was very cool. I will say that one's significant because that version of Brainiac was a supercomputer created by Krypton, who eventually left Krypton, but like usually Brainiac is from a completely different planet called Kolu. James could also be referring to the My Adventures with Superman version of Brainiac, who I believe is also Kryptonian in origin. So that is an interesting commonality between those two versions of the character. Brainiac also appeared on the Harley Quinn show. He was a big antagonist in the most recent season. That played him way more similar to the Otto Binder version of Brainiac. And then as far as animated material goes, Brainiac was one of the original members of the Legion of Doom back in the day. I don't think that's what James is referring to. I imagine when James is talking about the animated material, he's mostly pointing to the Superman animated series version of Brainiac, just because that did become such an iconic version of the character. Brainiac also showed up in a bunch of video games. He's the antagonist in the second Injustice game. He is the antagonist in Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. There have been quite a few takes on Brainiac. And then the last thing James mentions is the creepy and wonderful Absolute Brainiac. This is from the Absolute Superman comic, which is a reimagining of all these characters like Batman, Wonder Woman. They've all got absolute versions. The Absolute Brainiac, I believe, is part of a race of like supercomputer people who malfunctions, sort of loses it, and then he goes to Earth and becomes the AI assistant for the Lazarus Company, which is owned by Ra's al Ghul and is this big organization. Lois Lane works there, and Brainiac becomes obsessed with Superman. If you've seen the images of this version of the character, he's very funky looking. It's an interesting design, you know. And honestly, if you asked just a big fan of comics, what are the best versions of Brainiac? I would say most of them would probably say Otto Binder version, the Marv Wolfman version, animated series, and maybe this current version. Like, I don't think that's a crazy specific group of Brainiacs. Also not mentioned in that group is the Brainiac who was like a mentalist whose brain got infected by a computer program and just turned into a supervillain. I believe this is the post-crisis version of the character, the Milton Fine version of Brainiac. I always thought that was kind of a fun origin for the character, but I don't think that's what we're going to get here. But overall, you know, I love that they're making progress. I think it's great that we have a relative unknown compared to, say, people like Dave Bautista. When James Gunn posted about this on Twitter, I think, I replied with one of my favorite moments from the Justice League Unlimited show, from the episode specifically called, I believe, The Great Brain Robbery, where Lex Luthor and the Flash switch places. There's a bit where Lex, as the Flash, who's not really had any luck, goes to the bathroom and he's like, at least I can learn the Flash's identity. He takes off the mask and he says to himself,
I have no idea who this is.
And I think some people took that as like, no, but this is a good thing. It's good to get an unknown actor. I wasn't trying to make it sound like it was a negative thing. I think it's cool. I like that we're getting exposed to new actors from different parts of the world. I think the way I related to that specific moment from the show is because in that moment, Lex is expecting to learn something and then he gets the information and he's like, this doesn't help at all. But yeah, you know, I think Lars has got his work cut out for him. I can't wait to see where this movie goes, what other characters end up here, what version of Brainiac we're getting. I imagine it's going to be a kind of hybrid of all of these. And like, I really like the Superman movie, so I trust James Gunn. I trust they will do something cool, and I'm excited to watch this movie in 2027. And if you want to watch something in between now and then, you can check out the short film The Dinner Plan, made by friend of the channel, Patrick Willems. It is a story about a man who has to go to a company dinner, and he has to eat the food, but he doesn't like the food. Well, it's not that he doesn't like the food, it's that he's allergic to the food, and like, that's stressful for him. Take something that's silly, playing it very serious. It's got John Hodgman, Miriam Shore, Zach Cherry, a lot of people you probably recognize from TV stuff, or in the Zach Cherry specifically, you probably recognize him from being the guy that's like, Spider-Man, do a flip, or the guy that's like, I'm live streaming Shang-Chi. Anyway, if you want to watch The Dinner Plan, along with all kinds of other great stuff, you should check out this video sponsor, Nebula, which we just introduced 3-day trials for Nebula. You're like, what's Nebula? Well, it's a subscription streaming service that I helped to create. I've talked about this many times in many videos before, where me and a bunch of other YouTube creators, people that make videos about like history, culture, current events, science, all kinds of stuff. It's a very big list of what we make videos about. The Nebula is a platform you can go to watch all our videos early, ad-free. You can like download them on your phone. But like, Nebula is curated. I don't know if you guys use YouTube a lot. I do, for all kinds of stuff. And it has so much AI. And some of it's like obvious AI, right? Like a movie trailer for Avengers Doomsday, and it's all the characters just kind of turning. But there's also AI content where it is a disembodied voice talking about a news thing or character in a comic book or something. A lot of times I'll be like, what is the deal with this vigilante character? I would like to learn a little bit more about him pretty quickly, so I'll put on a YouTube video. And if I did this 3 years ago, it's like people who know what they're talking about, who are fans of the character, research the character, whatever, and they're like human beings. And I love that. Do it now. Unless you see the person's face or you know who they are, it could very well, and a lot of them are just like AI videos where the AI talks about the characters. It drives me up a wall because A, you don't always know it until like you're a little bit in and you're like, oh man, something about the way this guy's talking just doesn't feel right. But sometimes they just do sound right, and it's not until like you're pretty much done with the video that you're like, damn it, that wasn't a real person. And like Nebula, it's got a lot of great things going for it, but one main one that I love to tell people about is it's all real people. We are making it ourselves, and all the videos getting made on it are made by us, and it's very cool. And a year of Nebula is already a steal. It's $60 a year, $5 a month. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, in the month of December specifically, you can get a year of Nebula for half that, for $30. That is $2.50 a month. It is an incredible deal. Also, like I said, it's December. The holidays are coming up. Gift giving is always stressful. You get somebody like a t-shirt that they're going to wear once or twice and maybe won't fit. Or you could get them a subscription to a streaming service made by creators you know they love that lets them watch those videos early without ads, lets them download them to their phone. And you can get that for $30 a year if you get it within the month of December. That is an incredible deal. That cannot be beat. So again, go to go.tv/thenandocut in the month of December and get a year of Nebula for $30. It's a great deal. Watch the dinner plan, watch all my videos early, watch all the other cool stuff we put up there. You're gonna love it.